There's a quiet kind of presence on social media that most people overlook. They're there. They see everything. They read the captions, watch the stories, scroll through the endless stream of faces, but they almost never appear in it. No selfies, no carefully staged vacation photos, no smiling portraits framed by perfect lighting. And if you've ever wondered why someone would choose to stay invisible in a place designed for visibility, the answer is rarely simple. Because for some people, silence online isn't absence. It's a decision, a quiet one, but a meaningful one. To understand this, we need to step back and look at what social media quietly asks from us. Not just attention, but performance. Every photo is a small narrative. Every post is a version of the self we decide to present. Over time, this becomes a subtle habit. We begin to live two parallel lives, one that is experienced and one that is displayed. For many people, the difference between the two barely registers, but for others, that gap becomes impossible to ignore. And once you notice it, something inside you shifts. You begin to ask questions that didn't exist before. Who am I when no one is watching? And who am I when I know that someone is? For some people, posting photos feels natural. It feels like sharing. But for others, it can feel strangely different, like turning a moment into a performance. Imagine standing in front of a beautiful sunset. One person lifts their phone immediately. They frame the shot, adjust the angle, capture the light at the perfect moment. Another person does something else. They just stand there. They watch the colors slowly fade into the evening sky, and they feel the moment pass through them without trying to hold it. Neither reaction is wrong, but they come from very different relationships with experience. People who rarely post photos often belong to the second group. They are less interested in preserving the image of the moment and more interested in living inside it. Psychologically, this often appears in people who are deeply reflective, people who spend a lot of time observing rather than displaying. They notice subtle things, the way people change their tone depending on who's around, the way approval shapes behavior, the way social media quietly rewards visibility, confidence, and certainty. But life as they experience it rarely feels that simple, because real emotions are often quiet, unfinished, contradictory. They don't always fit neatly into a photograph. There is also something else happening beneath the surface, a different relationship with attention. Many people experience attention as validation. A photo receives likes, a story receives replies, and each small reaction feels like confirmation. But for others, attention carries a different emotional weight. It invites interpretation, judgment, expectation. Suddenly, a private moment becomes public material. And once it becomes public, it begins to belong, at least partly, to everyone else. Some people are comfortable with that exchange. Others instinctively resist it, not out of fear, but out of a quiet instinct to protect something, their inner life, their experiences, their sense of self that exists when no one else is watching. If you think about it, the most meaningful moments in life are rarely designed for an audience. A conversation that lasts until 3 in the morning, a walk alone after a difficult day, the strange peace that arrives after a long period of confusion. These moments change us, but they almost never appear online. People who rarely post photos often understand this in a very intuitive way. They know that some experiences lose something when they are immediately turned into content. It's not that they reject social media entirely. They still observe. They still participate in quiet ways. But they draw an invisible boundary, a line between what is shared and what is kept. There's a simple example that illustrates this difference. Think about a friend who rarely posts anything about their life. At first glance, it might seem like nothing much is happening. But when you spend time with them in person, something feels different. They are present. They listen carefully. They notice details most people overlook. They don't seem distracted by the invisible audience that social media often creates in our minds. And slowly you realize something. Their life is not quieter. It's just less displayed. At some point, many of these people arrive at a subtle realization. Not every meaningful experience needs to be documented. Not every joy needs to be announced. And not every identity needs to be performed. There is a kind of freedom in that realization. A freedom that doesn't seek approval. A freedom that allows moments to exist fully, without being translated into images. In a world that increasingly encourages visibility, choosing privacy can look strange. It can be misunderstood. People might assume you are hiding, or that you lack confidence. But sometimes the truth is much simpler. Some people are not trying to disappear. They are simply choosing where their life actually happens, not on the screen, but in the quiet, unrecorded spaces where experience is still allowed to be real. And if you happen to be one of those people, someone who scrolls more than they post, someone who keeps certain moments entirely to themselves, then there may be nothing unusual about you at all. You might simply be someone who understands a small but profound truth, that the most meaningful parts of life rarely ask to be seen. They only ask to be lived.